Hi there and welcome to the Brad Young channel, and this is my second part or part 2 of my waistcoat video that I'm making, the Kwik Sew 3899 waistcoat. Now I've read through the instructions and I've got my pattern ready. I've cut out my material for the mock-up, that is, so I think I'm ready to get going with it, so start sewing I think. Right, having a quick look at my instructions, the first thing it says about is doing interfacing. Now I'm not going to do any interfacing because you need quite a bit of it for doing this, and as it's just a mock-up I don't want to do that step. So the first thing it actually says is just to put a little bit of stay stitching on what are the front pieces. So we've got some little bit of stay stitching to go in here, and then you're going to be putting a little notch in. This is the front section, so that's done, and then we're on to actually starting to construct the, it says here, side panels and to front panels, so front and sides together need to be put in the backs together as well, the back pieces, and then put them together at the shoulder. So it actually moves on quite quickly initially getting the main pieces together, so I'll get them sewn up and have a look where we are. So I've got the first few parts together, which is the front and front side and the back, which is what it tells me to do, and they've been stitched together at the shoulder seam. So that's sort of it so far, and yeah, it seems to come alright. I must admit, from this first part coming together, it looks huge, but well, yeah, I don't know, too early to really say. Don't know how I'm going to finish seams on this, haven't really got to that, and all I know is with the seams, these seams are actually going to be hidden away because there is a lining for this, of which is my next step. So let's have a quick look at the instructions and what it tells me to do next. So next it tells me to start putting the lining together by putting the front and side lining pieces together, and then putting the, what is the front facing piece onto the lining as well. So yeah, let's put them together and see what I get. A quick note on mock-ups. I've just been going to sew this particular piece in, which is the front facing piece, and I looked at it and went, it's a bit short, what have I done wrong? So I looked at it carefully, and then I realised that actually the actual pattern piece, because this is a merger of two facing pieces, I'd actually marked it against the wrong line at the bottom, so I'd marked it against the small. It should be the medium. So a quick adjustment, a quick reworking, and I've now got it to the right length and recut out this piece, which goes back to what I always say, mock-ups are for mistakes. Well, it's slowly starting to come together, looking all right, I think. Let me explain what I've got on here, because it probably looks a bit odd. What I did is put the outer pieces together, you know, the fronts and onto the back, and then I did the same with the lining, which is the lining pieces which are in white, which as you can see there, and the back piece. This one isn't white because this is a facing piece, which is made out of the same material as the outer, but will be on the inside. And then of course, when you put these two together, this is sort of how it's going to be coming together. This part, because it's got a collar piece, that will actually sit open, but yeah, you sort of get the idea of what's going on with this. It is quite long. I know I'll lose it because of the seam line when you turn that up a little bit, but it does seem like quite a long, waistcoat or vest, as some people might call it, maybe a sleeveless jacket, but it's quite a little length in it. So I suppose, depending on how roomy that is, will make me think, well, should I go down a size or not? But at the moment, I'm quite happy just to carry on and see how this all goes together. But yeah, it's coming on nicely. You can see that sort of shape to it with this collar piece here that will be in. But as I say, this so far is the outer piece and the lining that's been done. So now I've got to actually put these two pieces together using some sort of what looks a bit like a burrito method of sorts. I'm not quite sure yet. I'll have to have a look at the instruction and get into it, but that's the next piece, actually getting these two pieces fixed to each other. Right, the next step that I've got to do is to actually put the front piece, or the front lining piece, onto the front. Because there's two patterns on here, one with a collar and one without, the one without a collar seemed to be a little bit more straightforward. It moves on a bit quicker, whereas now I've got to put the collar in, but I can only do that once I've put the fronts together. So I'll put the fronts together and put the collar in, which is these two. But the instructions aren't that clear to me. There's a little bit of, I don't know, confusion there. There always is when I'm sewing, but never mind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this. I'm going to get these bits done, get the collar on, and then show you what I've done. And hopefully it'll be quite clear. Well, I've managed to get the collar inserted, and it's not the straightforward, easy thing that it might first appear. Where do I begin? Basically, you've got to put your two pieces together, your what they call upper and lower collar, and then you've got to stitch in onto what is the back actual outer. But what you've got to be careful of is as you come round to the front section, this is where you've put this is where I've put the front lining in. It's already stitched in there. You've got to meet up with the point. There's a dot there. That's where the collar's going to go in from. And then you have some stay stitching that we put in earlier, where we'd nipped in, and that's on an angle, so you've got this strange dogleg angle before you come across the back. But of course when you turn it through, you do actually end up with a collar on the back that's not attached on the front, on the lining side. Then it actually says after that, once you've got this collar in, to put the back lining in at the shoulder seams, which is also easier said than done. So what we've got now is lining, outer side, collar, and inner lining. Yeah, it all looks a bit mysterious. It's hard to show because, see what I mean? That's now not attached on the inside onto the lining, but it is attached on the outside. So it's a little bit tricky, taking me a little bit of a while to get that in and to work out how it's going in, but it does go in, just a case of taking my time over it, matching up a bit better, and I've worked out where I've got to sort of get it to match up to sit right. So yeah, I know it's not a very good way of doing it, but effectively we're trying to create this collar piece there that's going to sit like that. So that has sort of worked, and I'm sort of happy how it's going. But yeah, it's just one of those things. It's the mock-up. I'm taking my time with it, so but it is getting there, and I'm actually understanding what the instructions are saying, even though they look a bit odd and the pictures aren't really helping. But it is coming together. Well, I'm now trying to put in the other side of the collar piece, the collar in the middle there, and this is the front of the collar that I've got here, and it's pinned to the lining back. There's the front, as I said, the main back, the outer back, and I've managed to pin it in so it pins in there, and that's where the shoulder is. So I've now got to stitch that and then flip it over all the way through, as it were, and then that'll be the collar in place. Well, I finally managed to get the collar actually in. It's as you can see, I've got it sat down now, so that's sort of how it's going to be. But yeah, it's come off all right. I mean, it is just a mock-up, but it's, I'd say it's not easy. It's a little tricky because of the way that this curvature is on the back here and the way it sits in on this section, coming in at an angle, so it's a little bit fiddly. Possibly a hand sewing job when it actually comes to do the main garment. I don't know yet. Still a bit of work to be done and to experiment with. We're bringing this together, but yeah, look at it, starting to have some actual shape to it. Still flapping about in the breeze here, so better get on the next stage, which is actually starting to bring the whole thing together fully. So the next step is to actually sew up the armhole seams. This is turned inside out, so I've got the lining piece and the outer piece, what is the actual jacket that you'd see, right sides together. This is the front, so it's the front sections, and this is the back. So I'm putting the front to the front and backs to back, but only, like I say, on this armhole section, and then I've got to drag this whole section through the hole here to sort of pull it all sort of the right way through. So yeah, so that's going to be fun. So see how that goes. So the next step is to actually put the sort of side seams together. Now this is the neck piece, this is that armhole piece that I've literally just done. But now I've got to sew these sides together. But the way that these are going to come together is that I'm going to have to sew the lining piece to the lining and the outer, as they call it, the vest piece to the vest piece there. So I effectively got to bring these two together at that point, bring this all the way over like so, and then try to bring what is the front bit to match up with the front there. And so I've got this long stitch that I've got to do. I've got to go from this end all the way to this end. I'm just putting some pins in this and getting it lined up. It's going to be a nightmare, but let's give it a go. On the other side, because I've got to do it both sides, I need to leave a gap, sort of so much, because that's eventually going to be used to pull the whole thing through once I've stitched some hems and stuff as well. So see how that goes. Well, nearly there. As you can see, it's come together quite well. This side's gone together, both the sides. I've left the obligatory hole that's required to turn it through. That's because I've got one seam left to do, and it is actually the bottom seam. Now that's going to be done sort of inside out, and you have to turn it through. So I'll show you what I mean, and then I'll get that done. So the last seam to actually put together is this bottom one. And what I've got to do, literally, is this is the back. That's the fronts are here. This is the inside lining. This is the main outer piece. I've got to literally bring this up like that, and then I've got to bring this side up on the other side. If I can get it right. Everything gets tucked inside like a bit like a pillowcase, I suppose. And then I've got to match up this seam here and stitch all the way along there, which is why you leave the hole to drag everything through once I've done this bottom seam. Well, now that I've actually sewn that bottom seam up, all I've got to do now is turn it the right way, because this is effectively inside out. That hole that I left doesn't seem much of a hole. I've now got to drag that all through. So let's get on with it. And there we go. One waistcoat, or vest as some people would call it. Does describe it as vest in the instructions. So But yeah, in the UK we tend to call it a waistcoat. Of course, you've got a little bits of pieces. I probably have to get in there with the poker and just make sure that I get all the bits that need to be pushed through and made sharp are done through that hole that's still there, and then just hand sew that up somehow, and what you have is a waistcoat, or a, as I would say, sleeveless jacket really, isn't it? So yeah, that's come out quite well actually. I really quite like that. Bit different. I'm still wondering whether or not it's a bit too long, whether I should shorten that in the body somewhere. Not sure as yet. Perhaps I might leave it as a nice sort of longish, easygoing sort of coat, because I'm only going to have a couple of buttons on there. That's all I wanted on this one, so that's how it's going to sit. There are no pockets unfortunately, but there you go. But yeah, the mock-up is done. It's taken a little while. There are some tricky bits I've got to watch out for, like this collar. And of course I've got to work out how I'm going to actually finish the seams off. Even though pretty much all the seams are hidden on the inside, I still need to do some finishing with them, but there you go. One mock-up of the Kwik Sew 3899. And this is a sort of mashed version, because this is the one with the collar but also with this sort of pointed bottom edge on it. Yeah, I quite like that. I think I'm going to be looking forward to actually making the main job, which is yet to be done out of the good material, but the mock-up, I'm quite happy with that, with how it's gone. Yeah, the construction process is not quite as bad as I thought it might be, but I think it's just be a case of take my time, don't rush it, and if I have a slight problem, stop and work through it. So yeah, there you go. One mock-up actually complete. Well, thank you very much for watching my video. I look forward to seeing my next video. If you like this one, please do give it a click on the like button, subscribe, put a comment if you'd like. I really love reading your comments. And the next video for this one hopefully won't be too long, so obviously there will be a part 3. So thank you very much. Bye. A quick post-edit note here. Having done that mock-up, I did actually decide to do the mock-up again. This is the second mock-up. Little bit of adjustment here, changed the length of it and a couple of other things. So I think now that I'm ready to make the main garment.